Let me start from the beginning. I'll go real quick because I don't have that much time. I was pretty much a born entrepreneur from the time I emerged from my mother's womb. At 8 years old, I had a paper route. I was knocking on doors and expanding it, making money. At 10 years old, I was shoveling driveways after snowstorms. In the States, we have snow, 10, 12 inches. You go to people's driveways, 20 bucks a driveway, and you make money. I hit big for the first time at the age of 16. And I went down to Jones Beach in New York, which is kind of like Bondi Beach, but it's much bigger and incredible amount of people packed in blanket to blanket to blanket. And what I did is each morning I'd go to an ice cream distributor, I'd load up a cooler with Italian ices, chipwich, and fudgicles, and I'd go blanket to blanket selling them at a huge markup. I'd pay 7 to 10 cents a piece for the ice cream and ices, sell them for $1. And I was making about 20,000 bucks a summer, and I put myself through college that way. I do not come from a rich family, but I come from a really good family. You know, they always taught me right from wrong, which is very important to the story, because I kind of veered off course. My mother, from the time I was in the high chair getting applesauce, she was saying to me, the only noble way to become wealthy is to be a doctor. You gotta be a doctor, you gotta be a doctor. And it's almost like hypnosis. She inserted this belief in my mind that I should be a doctor. I didn't want to be a doctor. The thought of going 12 years after college to become a doctor was insanity to me. So I figured, let me just go to dental school. Dentists make a ton of money, and I'll be out in 5 years, including the residency afterwards. My mother will be happy because I'll still be Dr. Belfort, and that will be that. The first day of dental school, I walk in, it's an auditorium, it's for orientation, and the dean is standing up on a stage pretty much like this. There's 105 dental students in the audience. And then he says, but let me say this, the golden age of dentistry is over. If you're here to make a lot of money, you're probably in the wrong place. I was like, what the fuck? I'm in the wrong place. And I got up and I left. I had to come clean. I was really embarrassed, but I had to go home, and I took a job selling door to door. And I was selling steaks, shrimps, and lobster tails, knocking on people's doors. And this was the first time in my life that I realized I had a gift for sales. The first day, I broke the company record. First week, I shattered the company record. And just like that, the money started pouring in. And just so you know, like the ices business, it wasn't sales. It was hard work and perseverance, but it wasn't sales. Now, the words are flowing. I just knew instinctively what to say. After a few weeks, I said, you know, why am I buying the meat from this company when I can go to the market myself and buy the meat and make the double markup? It seemed pretty similar to the ISIS deal. I had high hopes, and I went out, bought a truck, and started selling. Made some money, bought a second truck, a third truck. Before I knew it, I had 26 trucks on the road, was making a ton of money, I thought, and it was flowing in, cash flow flowing in. I made just about every possible mistake a first-time business owner can make. I was overexpanding, I was undercapitalized, I wasn't screening out my employees. I found out later half of them were smoking crack. They would take my trucks and they would just disappear. Like 5 days, they'd be best people, and one day they're just gone. I find the truck under a bridge, and it was dry ice, so the meat was thawed out. It was a total disaster. And when the barbecue season ended, the cash flow dried up. Everyone's in business, you know this. I had all the payables coming to, I'd grown on credit, and wham, just like that, I was out of business. I had a little red Porsche, and there was a tear in my eye when the tow truck came and repossessed my Porsche, and I was left with absolutely nothing. So in New York, when you're a guy who wants to make a lot of money, and you're a salesman, what do? You go down to Wall Street. And that's how I started my career on Wall Street. And I literally sold myself a job. Sold myself a job. I had to go in there and beg for it because I didn't have business experience. Not that you need that to be a stockbroker. It's a real misconception. But they gave me a job because I swore I'd work harder than anybody else. I could sell. They sensed something in my spirit and my tone of voice. They hired me. I was getting paid 80 bucks a week to go down to Wall Street to work there. It was costing me 100. So I was going backwards $20. I was working on weekends at the beach to sell ISIS to make my rent. At nighttime, I was going into office buildings selling costume jewelry, door to door. I was doing anything I could to get through this trading program. And I got to tell you this, it was 1987, and the kids were making, 25 to 32, were making so much money I could not even believe it. $500,000 to $1 million on the low side. Someone making $2 million as stockbrokers. It was the bull market of the 80s, and the market was roaring. My first day as a stockbroker, the day I passed my exam, was October 19th, 1987, the day of the great stock market crash. And I watched in fucking awe as the stock market went down 508 points in one day. You could have heard a pin drop in the boardroom. And everyone was like, oh my God, the party's over. I'm like, what? The party's, I watched the party, didn't make a freaking dime, okay? And the firm closed down. It was one of the biggest firms on Wall Street. In business 120 years, they lost all their money the day of the crash, and boom, just like that, I was out of a job again. And no one was hiring. That evening, as I went downstairs, the New York Post, which is like a sleazoid paper from the States in New York, it's like on the cover, the death of Wall Street. All stockbrokers will become cab drivers. I was like, oh. I went home literally like a zombie, my tail well between my legs. And here was the last and final insult. My wife, great lady, but she was not the sharpest tool in the shed. She wasn't. And all she did was watch soap operas all day and Oprah. So while everybody in the free world knew that the market had crashed, it was everybody but her. So when I walked in the door, she had champagne. And she comes running up, "How, congratulations, how was your first day as a stockbroker?" I'm like, "How was my first day as a stockbroker?" I started, just like that, a disaster. Okay?